Hello all, thank you for coming and I hope that you are well. Let's start with this presentation, and as Pedro has many times said, we're going to have a lot of singing, so
Michael is not working.
Yeah.
No, it is working. It is just not capturing well. Sorry, some logistical issues, but I can use this one.
Is essentially for the recording, because hopefully we'll publish the videos maybe in a few months.
All right, this is what, okay, this works. So get ready to hear my crooning voice, but no. Hello all. So as Diogo said, I'm Diogo and I'm engineering manager at Canonical, and today we're going to talk about SBOM. Can't keep on more than these few bars because imagine this is human GPT. I'm prompting you to imagine that I'm actually doing a song and dance routine to the sound of the 1999 hit SBOM. Sadly, it's only in your imagination because this talk is going on YouTube or it's being recorded and copyright strikes are a thing. Also, I'm not a good singer and the Geneva Convention prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. So here we go. Going to the spirit of the talk, this is my T-BOM, let's say the talk bill of materials. So we will be talking about BOMs in general. So I'm not going to be singling out specific vendors or formats. I'm not here to defend one format or the others, just to talk about the idea. We will be covering the good, the working through it, and the needs improvement. All opinions are exclusively my own because that's just how opinions work. While everything in this presentation should be accurate, this presentation was designed with entertainment in mind, so keep that a thought. There will be plenty of time for questions at the end, and yeah, enjoy the ride. Let's go. So yeah, we're going to talk about BOMs, builds of materials. Somebody set up as the BOM, and who you already know it's me, when it's now, and where it's self-focused and auditory. So we're going to be talking about the what, the why, and the how. So the what is fairly simple. A bill of materials is a concept that is very old. It's not something that has come to prominence recently. Bill of materials is basically a list, an inventory of everything that you're going to use for something. If you're building a home, a bill of materials is the bricks, the tiling, the plumbing, everything that is there. When we move off to software and IT, a bill of materials is essentially all the components that you put into your system. So the concept has since expanded into there's the SBOM, which is the software bill of materials. There's the CBOM, which is the cryptographic bill of materials, detailing the algorithms and the libraries that you are using. There's the HBOM, the hardware bill of materials, and so forth. You can understand the concept. It's basically something. BOM is whatever you need for your application or service or whatever to appear. As I said, this is not a new concept, but it has risen to prominence in the past few years after Joe Biden sent out an executive order in 2021. And if you look back at Google Trends, you will see that once that executive order came out, it does not mention SBOMs specifically, but it does mention supply chain security. The thought leadership mills basically just started cranking out content. From my understanding, I feel that all of us have an innate understanding of what a bill of materials is. A bill of materials is, hey, I have props. A bill of materials is the ingredients, not a recipe. So basically, this is a chocolate bar. You all know this. And you know that on the backside, there's going to be a bill of materials for whatever is in this chocolate, basically detailing all the ingredients that are part of it. However, sometimes this connection might not be direct. So you can be confronted by a list of ingredients, but you really don't know what this is associated to. For 5 points, what is this? Close, but the niche. See? Close. So, but that is something that points to what I'm saying. It's basically the ingredient list is not one-to-one mapping. Like you could take this and you look at this, this is bacalhau à Brás. But in this case, actually it does not match. So let's talk about BOMs. I want BOMs from a vendor. Oh, you have BOMs at home. So most mature languages already come like, as I said, BOMs are not a new concept. Most mature languages already have BOMs built in. Like if you look at this picture, there's a number of known languages. So you have Java, Python, Rust, and Node. I'm looking at you, Node, and all they come with basically systems built that are either official, like Cargo is fully built into Rust, and at the opposite end, we have Maven for Java, which is not official, but is the de facto official way to manage dependencies. There are some alternatives, but more or less is this, that allow you to define dependencies and how they interact and resolve conflicts. So the files that are produced by these things, like the POM XML, PyProject YAML, packages JSON, are the BOMs for these projects. So you might think, oh, but we already have this. Why go through all the trouble to create something else out of this? Well, the files that you see here, the file names here are actually a good hint to that. So you can't really take an XML file and try to cross it over with packages JSON and expect everything to line up properly. It's a comparison that is not one-to-one. The idea with BOMs here is that you are going to take all of these individually and you're going to convert them into a common format to be the one and only representation of what these dependencies are. And this becomes more apparent if you think, oh, if you're thinking of an application that is only Java, okay, the POM XML works. But if you're thinking of an application that, for example, has a backend in Java and a front end that is Node, or God forbid, a backend that is Node and a front end that is Rust, something of the sort, you would have to upkeep a really big set of tooling to be able to go through that. While if you use a BOM format, you would be able to use a single representation for all of this. And if you have any other combination of these softwares in your company, you should be able to transform them and pull them together, right? Okay, spoiler alert. This works. This is a concept that is good on paper, but we'll see there are some difficulties with this. So let's consider the BOM model. So the BOM model, how it's applied, basically you have two sides. You have the producers, which are basically, if I'm doing software, I can produce a BOM from my software and release it with the software. And if I'm the customer, I am on the consumer side. So I receive that piece of software, I download a package, and attached to it comes a BOM that explains, here are all the constituting elements of this package. But for most cases, what's going to happen is that you are both a producer and a consumer. Okay? So let's face it. So if you produce a BOM in your CI/CD pipelines, then you're going to take that BOM and you're probably going to refeed it into another tool that is going to scan it for vulnerabilities. You're going to take it and you're going to put it into a dependency management tool to see what you can extract out of it. So you end up in a loop where you are both a producer and a consumer. The cases where you are merely a producer or merely a consumer of BOMs are quite rare. At this moment, how many of you have downloaded something and looked up the BOM for it? No hands raised. Surprising, but no. Okay. So let's talk about what we can do with BOMs. And this is an important distinction. So if you follow blogs online, you will see that BOMs are hailed as, oh, it's a panacea. It's going to solve all the problems that you have. You have a leaky pipe in your kitchen. If you do a BOM for that, it's going to solve your pipe. If you have bad software, you do a BOM for it, it's going to solve it. No, that's obviously not true. So BOMs by themselves do very little. A BOM is, as we described from the start, it's an itemized list of all the contents. That's it. You have the list, you can put it on the wall and you can point, oh, that's the thing. If you don't, you have to use it as a part of a cohesive program. It's a mechanism to get somewhere. It's not the end all be all by itself. So for example, you can leverage BOMs to manage, well, obviously, dependencies. This is the obvious, the trivial case, let's say. So if you have a piece of software and you are producing software, you could use these BOM tools to analyze your dependency tree and figure out, hey, here's this point where I'm getting this package and then I'm getting like 70 megabytes of packages out of it. Maybe I can replace this package by one that is equivalent to it and all the dependencies from it are reduced. You can use this, as I said, to reduce bloat. For some distributors, this is not a concern, but if you are familiarized with nodes and dependency hell, this is something that interests you very much. Like if you can reduce the size of your application and the number of dependencies, good things happen. No, to poor web browsers everywhere that have to download like 5 or 6 megabytes of JavaScript. You all know how it goes. So the second way to look at what we can leverage BOMs for is compliance. Here I'm singling out a very specific example, which is software licenses. The BOMs capture a lot of metadata about the packages that you are using, and one of those pieces of metadata is software licenses. Imagine that you are, well, full disclosure, I work in open source, so open source software is present in a lot of closed source software, and it's present in a lot of pieces of software that are distributed around the world. And keeping track of the licenses, for which there are many, GPL, LGPL, GPL3, blah, blah, blah. There's a number of them, and you have to comply with them or else be found in violation. Using a BOM is a way, for example, to ensure that all the software that you are packaging meets a certain license, it meets the correct licenses, and that you are providing all the necessary elements of those licenses. You can take the BOM, pipe it into a tool that verifies if these things are matching up. Like, are you distributing the source code? Are you packaging it in the way that is expected, which contains a copy of the license itself, and so forth? You can use it for that. Also, in recent years, the latest version of PCI DSS, the credit card payment standards, is demanding that you have, and this is how they describe it, an inventory of software assets, which is another way to simply say you need to have a bill of materials of the software that you have that contacts credit card numbers. Again, usage for compliance. You produce a BOM out of your SaaS platform, you're done. And the last one, which also comes more obviously, is vulnerabilities. So if you have a complete list, a complete inventory of all the packages that you have, and you have all the versions, if you receive an information from a CVE feed that says, oh, version between 2.1 and 2.2 are affected by this vulnerability, you can go through your BOMs and check, oh, I have this here. And then you can go patch it. And then you can go update it. So it provides invaluable assistance in doing this kind of work. Again, the idea here of having the unified format, because you can already do this. Like if you receive a CV, you can go to your cargo toml and search for the package. But if you have all of these in a unified format, you don't need to write a specific identifier for the toml format or for the JSON format or for anything. I know most of you are going to basically grep for the thing, but if you have a more complex vulnerability management system, you probably need to make it aware of what it's searching for. So another reminder, simply having a BOM does not increase the security of our application, no matter what blogs and influencers tell you. An SBOM can be leveraged to improve security, but it's part of a healthy, comprehensive program. Sorry, not healthy breakfast, but you get the point. It has to be used in conjunction with a number of things. You cannot simply go there, add BOM, and everything gets better. Okay? And now we get to the part where we explain, we have covered the what, we have covered the why, and now let's check how it's made. And here is where things start to get a bit more complicated. So I am carbon dating myself, but how many of you here recognize these two logos? Okay, this is good. Don't put your hands down. Now let's see if we can get everybody in the room to lift their hands. These two? Okay. So if you didn't get the hint, here's the situation that we are facing now. BOMs are a generalized concept, and they come in different formats. And we are currently facing, let's call it, I'm not going to say format wars, but there's some friction between the formats. These are the two more prominent ones. There's a third one, SPDI, which doesn't even show up because it's already out of the race, but just adding to the entropy of the whole system. And this creates some difficulties, which we're going to talk about a bit later. So the two formats that we have are CycloneDX, which is supported by OWASP at all. Right? There's a whole consortium associated with CycloneDX. It has an Apache license 2.0, and it supports JSON and XML. It's fairly bog standard. And on the other side, we have SPDX. SPDX is supported by the Linux Foundation and a number of other contributors, Google among them. And in this case, it has a very interesting detail going for it as it has become an ISO standard. This, I know that the general idea of ISO is very expensive standards that you have to pay a lot of money for, but these things gain traction in corporate environments. ISO is good for that, and that's the end goal of these things, being present in corporate environments. SPDX also has an odd distinction, I would say, that it supports a lot of formats. In my opinion, way too much. It supports JSON, YAML, RDF triples, XML, tag value, and spreadsheet. So we're back at square one. Imagine you have an SPDX BOM and it's an Excel spreadsheet. We're back at square one where everybody would just type in their dependencies, but oh well, they chose to support it, and it's what we have. I found it baffling, but yeah, it works. You can also pick JSON and YAML and any other machine readable format. And an important part here is that both are full stack BOM solutions that can cover a vast number of use cases. And what do we mean here by full stack? Well, let's look here at this graph that shows the CycloneDX specification. So this is on GitHub. It's fully open, the specification. You can contribute. You can just go there. It's another OWASP project. And as you can see, it covers a lot of ground, a lot of things. It has metadata, components, dependencies, which would be the one that you would expect to be present and have a lot of fields, but actually no. Compositions, vulnerabilities, formulation, annotation, extensions. It covers, it's fully spec'd. And if you are working in a software team, let's face it, this is intimidating. Your manager calls you to his office and says, oh, hi, we're going to implement CycloneDX here. Here is the spec. Please ensure that everything gets filled in. And your eyes just go. It's very intimidating standard, but it has to be because it has to cover all possible cases, the vast majority of possible cases for representing that information, and it even supports extensions like per industry and per team to add a lot of personalized metadata. If you go on the SPDX side, it's a bit more friendly. Well, the graphics are uglier, but it still works. It's a bit more simplified, but it covers the same basic requirements that CycloneDX covers, and it simply allows for liberty in those text fields. So you can add snippet information, file information. You can add a lot of information here. So this is a representation of the SPDX file format. So the issue that is ongoing here is if you have to choose between one of these, which are not competing but are working in the same space with different packers, this might be a very difficult decision for you, because what if you bet on the wrong format? And this is an issue that many teams have been confronted, which is a mandate comes down, oh, you have to implement BOMs. We don't care how it happens, you just have to do it. And you are faced with the decision, oh, what if I back the wrong horse? What if I back CycloneDX, but in the end, SPDX becomes the format? And those of you that did the format wars and had to rebuy your entire collection on Blu-ray after investing in HD DVD know that's painful. Okay? So we've looked over the formats, and now how do we produce them? Well, producing BOMs is also something that is still not fully worked out. There are a number of options. There's CI/CD plugins, which is generally the more common way to do this. Like, you associate the production of the BOM to the creation and compilation of your product. Like, you have an element during a stage during your CI/CD pipeline where the BOM is generated and produced as another build artifact. You have dependency translators where you can go, not in a CI/CD pipeline, you can take your PyProject.toml or your packages JSON, and they translate it into the formats that you saw before, or, and this is the case that is a bit more difficult, you have baked in dependency management like what GitHub is offering there, which is the dependency graph, or GitLab, which has a system to manage dependencies, but it's not the same thing. So the issue that you have with using GitHub for this, for the dependency graph, is that if you look there, it's subtle, but if you look there, it says export SBOM. So it allows you to export the SBOM of that dependency graph into one of these chosen formats. But the work that is being done behind the scenes is not really in those formats. So you get a sense of there's a bit of vendor lock-in. Like if you decide to use GitHub to manage your SBOM ecosystem nose to tail, okay, you're going to get addicted to that small button because you're just going to depend on export SBOM and then distributing somewhere else, which, depending on your needs or your goals with the SBOMs, might be conflicting. Of course, all of this is paid for. You have to get to the highest tier or the premium tier at least to get access to these services. So the idea here is if you're not giving them a lot of money or a modicum of money, you have to figure out a way to do this using GitHub Actions and cobbling it together with these plugins or dependency translators. GitLab has a different approach. GitLab integrates with a number of services, but the end result is more or less the same. Like you go to GitLab, you have the premium subscription, you select from one of the services that they offer, and then you can use that service to produce the bombs. So in general, there is no clear path that I can tell you, oh, if you want to implement this, it's easy. You download this, you apply this, and it's done. You have to figure out what is the best solution for you. Okay? And as we have covered now the what, the why, and the how, let's talk about those issues that I mentioned that have been causing some slowness, let's say, on the adoption side. There is always going to be, even if the idea of a bomb is inherently good, you would struggle to argue that there's something about it that is bad. There's always going to be objections to the mandated concept of, oh, you have to publish a bomb for all the software that you distribute. So let's go to some of these. The first one here is trusting a bomb. Okay, so we're going to have pizza later, but I brought lasagna. I don't know where we're going to heat it, but oh well. I'm hungry like the wolf, but oh, here's the problem. It's actually not beef lasagna, it's horse meat lasagna. And this is the parallel with trusting a bomb. So as you can see in the box, it does say Swiss beef, natural ingredients, free-range eggs, but it's actually not beef. The case the scandal was that it was horse meat. And this is you can see the parallels with trusting a bomb. For example, I'm a software producer. I distribute my binary. I give you the bomb for that binary. And I can sign that bomb to say it has not been tampered by anybody else. Good thing. It's digital signatures. We all know how these work. However, you do not have a way to take that binary, take the bomb, run it through a magical process, and at the end comes out a check that says, yes, whatever is described in this bomb is what is in this binary. Currently, there are ways to do this that are quite convoluted. There is no straightforward process where you can take an arbitrary binary and do this to trust that what is there is there. Signing the bomb does not solve this trust issue because, for example, imagine if you are a company that wants to hide that they're using a certain library that is known to be malicious or stealing data. They can produce a bomb, remove that, sign the bomb afterwards, and you have no way to recheck that, yes, the bomb matches what is there. Like in the case of the lasagna, it wasn't beef. Second one, protecting intellectual property, and this comes up a lot. So here I'm going to quote the late great Mitch Hedberg. They said that the recipe for Sprite is lemon and lime. I tried to make it at home. There's more to it than that. So the concept that the opposition that generally comes from the companies is that, oh, if I reveal the packages that I'm using, it's going to run me out of business. To which a trivial argument is to say that simply revealing what you use is sufficient to run you out of business, how are you in business? Because people reverse things, people try to tamper with software, people instrument software. So I don't see it as a good faith argument in that sense. I understand it. It's people trying protecting their way of earning money out of the services, but I don't feel that issuing transparency is the way that it's going to simply protect it. You have to remember the principles of Gestalt, or again, the ingredient list. If I give you the ingredient list for this chocolate, can you produce this chocolate at the end? Very unlikely. And the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So I would say that transparency and traceability go much further than simply saying, oh, I can't tell you what's in the secret recipe. But this is going to be an opposition that is simply going to happen until you have legal mandates or regulatory force behind it to basically enforce that the bombs need to be produced. Okay. Third one, Planck length recursion. For those of you that still remember physics, Planck length is basically the minimum distance that can be measured. And here we are going to be considering the situation with the bombs, the recursion that exists in complex bombs. So many of you were already in IT and security when Log4Shell came out. And one of the impacts that happened with Log4Shell that came out of left field was transitive dependencies were messing up installations, because you would say, oh, my application depends on OpenSearch, and OpenSearch is fine. It doesn't have Log4Shell. It doesn't have Log4j. Oh, okay. But OpenSearch depended on another package, which depended on another package, which depended on another package, which depended on another package that bundled Log4j, and therefore was vulnerable to Log4Shell. As we keep going through this, it's turtles all the way down. It's infinite recursion. If you are looking at projects like built with Node, that rely heavily on dependencies, the amount of recursion in those trees makes the project really difficult to manage and to produce proper bombs for evaluation. Also, you can consider what I mentioned at the start, like you want to compare the bombs between two projects to gain some insights out of it. Like, oh, can we replace this dependency with this one? If you are comparing bombs that have different recursion levels or different depth levels, like one that just goes one level deep and says, oh, I depend on this package and that's about it, you're not going to get much information if you cross it with a bomb that has 3 levels deep, that goes to that package, to the dependencies of that package, and so forth. In general, more is better, but as dependencies are a directed graph, we need to be able to manage this complexity without it blowing up in our hands when we want to go do a check for a vulnerability or something of the sort. And the final one, which lines up with this one, is cardinality at reversal. So it's easy to determine that lemons and oranges have citric acid, but it's difficult to do it the other way around. So can you identify all recipes that have citric acid from lemons and not oranges? It's more, if you think about it, it's like a computational problem of P versus NP. It's easy to verify, given a bomb, does this package exist in this bomb? Yes. All right. Easy peasy. You can just grab for the package name and it's there. But the reverse is not so simple. So if you get a CVE stream that says, oh, package something something has an issue, you're going to have to go check all of your bombs unless you have produced your own mapping that says, oh, this package exists in this, this, and this. It's a simple problem to solve in a way, but you also have to take care to, again, based on the previous recursion, make it manageable. Because imagine if you have a project that uses the bombs to up to 4 levels deep. And then you're going to have, and then you decide that has thousands of dependencies, and then you create a reverse map from all of those dependencies to where they are on these projects. These are unwieldy data structures. Maybe we throw them into LLMs, and we ask, hey, LLM, is this thing affected? Maybe the LLM says the right answer. Maybe the LLM hallucinates. That's always the gamble here. Yeah. So now we come to the opinion piece, in a sense. It's the completing the puzzle. The current status of bomb adoption is iffy at best. There's a lot of talk about it. You will find a lot of blogs, a lot of articles, but most of what you see are companies that are honing in on this space, building their product to meet this need. So when regulatory force comes into play, like a law comes out that says you have to have this, like in bars, you have to have the inspection for health and so forth. They are preparing for when that comes in. They simply come there with their product and say, oh, hi, you just pipe all of your software into this, you pipe all of your pipelines into this, we'll produce the bombs, and that's done. This works if you're willing to spend money, but the idea behind the bomb is that you should be, and with the support with things like OWASP and the Linux Foundation, is that you should be able to do this by yourself in an open and shareable format rather than going vendor. You can still choose to use vendor. There's nothing wrong with that if it works for you. But the idea should be that you should not be forced to go to a vendor. Rather, you should be able to do this by yourself. So more than completing the puzzle, this is, as you know, draw the rest of the owl. And here's how I think that we are going to be able to draw the rest of the owl. Because right now we are way, way, way over here. Some companies have bombs, but basically they are there for show, and they're not really fully structured in and being used to its full extent. So the first one, this should be obvious, is to settle on a format. Everybody knows this as XKCD for the standards. Oh, we're going to have to create another standard. If you are leading a team, pick a format. Pick the one that suits you best. If you are dealing with a lot of open source and you have to respect GPL licenses or not, pick SPDX. SPDX has really a section that is focused on licenses. Here are the licenses that can be assigned. Here is what is required for those licenses. If you're not so focused on that, if you are a more traditional shop, pick Cyclone DX. You're using the top 10 API errors, or you're using the top 10 for LLM, hey, just go full OWASP. But in the end, pick one. Make the decision, pick a format, because it's not going to matter in the end. It's not like physical media, where if you pick the wrong format, you're going to have to rebuy your collection. If you look back, if you look now at those format wars, everything is on streaming. When's the last time that you bought physical media? You're just Netflix, Disney Plus, and all that. The physical media basically fell in disfavor of the ease of access. And here is the same case. If at the end of a couple of years, one of the formats simply peters out and says, oh, we don't want to maintain this anymore, we're not going to do this anymore, there's going to be, for sure, a tool that allows you to convert every single thing that you have into the winning format, if you want to call it that. And if you think about it, the worst case scenario is actually that none of the formats wins out, and you have to live in a world where, oh, we only talk this language, or we only talk this format, and you're going to have to end up producing both. Again, the expectation will be that tools are going to start existing to translate one format into the other seamlessly. Speaking of tooling, let's focus on building up the tooling. So we could discuss if tooling drives adoption or if adoption drives the building of more tooling, but at the end, it's this. If you, as I said before, there is no clear process that I can give you a recipe and I just go, oh, you just download this, run this, and you have your bombs ready, set to go. It sadly doesn't work like that. There is not that simplicity yet. So after you pick a format, I would say, sit down with your team, figure out what your pipeline is. Oh, we use GitLab CI/CD. Oh, we use GitHub Actions. Okay, let's figure out how we can produce the bomb that we need, that fits our needs, or that meets the regulatory compliance out of our system, and stick with that. Again, I understand while saying this, that this seems like a very basic thing, but it's saying the basic thing out loud is sometimes the best antidote to analysis paralysis, because you can spend 1,000 hours comparing Cyclone DX and SPDX, and even the third format to say, oh, maybe this one is going to come from behind and win the war. But at the end, you just need to make a pick and go forward with it and build the momentum in your tooling to have bombs. Third one, have an ancillary ecosystem. And here I come with a funny anecdote. So I did do a lot of work for compliance. And there's a thing in the compliance world called the SOC 2 report. And the SOC 2 report is a weird thing because the SOC 2 is an examination of controls that you have in a company, and it's something that is proposed by the American Association of Public Accountants. Yeah, it's a format that is widely used in IT, but it's created by accountants. Oh, but why is it so prevalent? Well, because the idea has been created that if you want to go do business with a company, you ask for their SOC 2 report. You ask to see it. You don't read it. We rather read it, but just the fact that they have the SOC 2 report shows that they have gone through the process. There's enough safeguards in place that we can do business a bit more reassured, right? It is like the terms of service. You don't read them, but the fact that they have them means that they thought about this through. And we can apply the same pressure, in a sense, with BOMs. Like if you want to do business with a company, you reach out to them and you say, oh, can you send me a bill of materials of all the software licenses that you carry? Can you send me a bill of materials of all the open source libraries that you carry? These things are generally hidden. Like if you open the Spotify client and you go to About, and then you scroll a bit, there's going to be a list there of all the open source libraries that they have. But this is hidden in a UI menu. It's not something that when you download Spotify, a file comes next to it that lists all of this. The idea here is that basically, if you are interacting with a company or a business, you start asking for these things, and then eventually the demand will appear that, oh, people are asking for these things. These are good things to have. Perhaps we should build up our systems to have them. And that's what I mean by ancillary ecosystem. Like SOC 2 created the demand for itself, and then basically now it's self-sustaining. If you start doing these things, eventually the need for BOMs will be self-sustaining as well, and you won't have to have regulatory force punching you in to force you to do it. And the final one here is integrate and replicate. So the BOM concept is that focused on openness, transparency, and traceability. And it should not only be limited to the components of software. If you think about the way that you conduct yourself and to produce your products, if you focus on all of those characteristics, it's better in general for the community. Like I like to know what I'm installing on my device. How many times have you downloaded some weird application that you don't know what's there, and you ended up with some malware or a purple gorilla jumping up on your desktop? Remember Bonzi Buddy. So yeah, if you are in a position to apply these principles across everything, let's make public our decisions. Let's make public our usage of LLMs, for example. Let's not hide behind the fact that we are not disclosing this. And if we all do this and we all push companies to it, we can make security by obscurity a thing of the past. Because remember, a BOM can be anything. It's simply a way to demand, can you explain to me exactly what is in this and all the components that go into it? It can be an intentions bill of materials. It can be whatever you need. And as long as it's open, transparent, and you can trace where it came from. So join me as we BOM all the things, hopefully. And that is my question. All right, folks. This is the final slide here. Questions, discussions, and I'd like to say, there was a piece of news today about how Hugging Face, the marketplace for LLM models, has been infected with malware ones. Here's a question for the crowd: how would you build a BOM for an LLM model? George, any ideas?
Make an LLM for
Oh, turtles all the way down for George.
You can just repeat the question. So generating the BOM from your dependencies is fairly straightforward given tooling. What about like tracking third-party SaaS services that we use? If you use OpenAI, for instance.
Oh, that's a good one. So going back to, if I can go back to my first slide, actually Cyclone DX as a full stack bomb, as a mode where that calls it the SaaS bomb, software as a service bill of materials, where you can identify all of these services that you use in your company. Let's say that you have Google Workspace. Google Workspace goes in there. You are basically identifying your, well, all the services that your company depends on. Of course, that some companies are going to pick this for the easy ones, like, oh, our emails are Google. They're not probably not going to put their, oh, our marketing email spam is Marketo, but don't mind that. We're not going to put it in the bomb. But yes, there's even an option. This one is extracted from Cyclone DX, but you can do the same thing with SPDX, where you can outline the services and software as a service that you rely upon. And it can even be part, like if your software uses the API for OpenAI within it, you can also list it there.
You think there's a way to automate like discovery for these?
That's an interesting question. So, yeah, that leads us to that part where I said about the verification. So the discovery part, you would have to do the discovery part in a very specific part of the process where you have visibility. Like if you get the binary already baked in, the discovery idea would be, oh, I take this binary, I put it in a box, and then the box is going to produce the bomb for it. This is more of a difficult problem to solve. Like if it's a fully compiled binary, what is the box going to do? It's going to decompile it. But you could wrangle something together. Let's say if you want to detect which API is this used, all right, put it in a sandbox, monitor network connections, see what it tries to call home to, and you get there. But all of these are, let's call it what they are, hacky ideas. We don't really have a good solution for discovery unless for post-creation discovery, most of these things hinge on the producer wanting to put out that information.
Also, all the time, I was thinking about part lists. And thank you very much for your presentation, because it's opening even now my mind, because BOM is a sort of part list, but it's generating it to any other field than the part list. And finally, the BOM could be useful and needed for all sorts of things, even love need BOM. When you are making something, anything, if you are managing something or working, everything need BOM.
Mhm.
It's a very interesting presentation showing the inclusion of BOM in all the fields of the common life, industry life, every life, every activity needs BOM. Even if you don't say you need it, you need it.
Yes, thank you. Exactly as you said, we can apply this concept of transparency and traceability across everything that we wish, as long as we remain committed to these values. It's open, it's traceable. So basically, you publish this. But I'll give an additional example. For example, if you just produce the BOM in your CI/CD, but you don't publish to the users of your software, you're missing out on a big part there where the users can, by themselves, verify their software against vulnerabilities. It becomes one of those cases where people are using a piece of software and they go surprised, oh, I did not know that this vulnerability affected it. Well, if you have the BOM for the software under your control as well, you can be the agent of that verification. You can take the BOM, verify it yourself. So yeah, the concept can apply across all fields. Making a supermarket list, well, that's your bill of groceries. If you run a bunch of tools over software and get a list of defects back, well, that's your, I don't call it bill of materials, I call it your bill of problems, in a sense. So, yeah.
Is there any discussion on depth of the BOM, on the ideal depth? Because I feel that the further down you go with the rabbit hole, you'll find that some dependencies are not actually applicable to you. Because let's imagine you're importing some Node.js library, which I told you don't like, but that one is by itself importing another one, which does not apply to your environment. That happens. Like, so what's, is there any discussion around like how further should I need to go to publish the bomb?
Okay, so let's consider that scenario where basically we have a dependency, but it's a dead dependency. Basically, the package, let's consider you have a package to put colors in your terminal. You import this package, but you don't actually use the colors part. You use it for something else, for encoding things into UTF-8. So there needs to be some fine tuning. You cannot simply, as you said, I have no idea here. I think it has to be experimentally thought out. Like, depending on the language, the difference in depth is going to vary. Like, if you have languages with a very robust standard library, most libraries are going to, okay, probably go 1 2 levels deep until you hit something that can be rewritten as only basic library functions. While Node, which is the example that I always use, those of you that know Node know that there is libraries like is even, is odd, left pad, right pad, because there's nothing in the basic library. You have to import every single package. So there is no one size fits all in this. And I'll go one step further. I'll talk about the vulnerabilities there. As you said, and very well, you can import a package and it's a dead package. You don't actually use it. It just comes along from the requirements of another package. You can do this as well. Like, vulnerabilities have a format similar to this, which is called VEX, Vulnerability Exchange Format. And there's again, VEX suffers from the exact same problems as this, as there is VEX, there's CycloneDX VEX, there's OpenVEX. It's just a multiplicity of formats. And for example, one of the fields in VEX is that you can receive a vulnerability and you can add a justification to it. And you say, oh, we're actually not vulnerable to this because we do not use the function that is actually vulnerable. But again, this is a bit of experimentation. There is really no one size fits all in terms of, because every piece of software is different and unique. So depending on languages or architecture and how you build them, you really have to try to get to that inflection point where more information is just noise, but you have enough information that you can manage vulnerabilities for it or manage dependencies for it.
Is there any reason to go beyond the first level of that?
Log4Shell. Log4Shell is a clear example of, if you had remained only on the first level, you would have missed it. Because it was a transitive dependency of a dependency that was buried into a number of Java applications because it was so prevalent. So if you look, like if your application, let's say that you took the Docker manifest for your application and just said, oh, OpenSearch. You go look at OpenSearch. OpenSearch doesn't use Log4j. But there's a package within OpenSearch or that then bundles another package that then has it in. So these sneaky transitive dependencies that might also be dead dependencies, because for example, if you search for active code use, it might not come up. It's a dependency that's included because the requirements list is huge. And you see this, like sometimes, have you ever done apt install and it installs like 50 packages because they're on the dependency list, but they're not really necessary? This dependency bloat can hide these things deep within the BOM.
Hey, Diogo. Thank you for the talk. Your talk kept triggering me all the time, so I have lots of questions, but I'll probably save a couple for tomorrow. So my first thought is, don't you think that incentivizing SBOMs is like a cunning plan from legislators and regulators to later hold you accountable? Because, like, thank you for the list, sir. And now I see that you have this many components vulnerable. Now you have like 5 days to patch them. Please. Otherwise, you'll get fined.
Yes, you could see that. You could also construe it as that I'm actually sponsored by patent trolls. We want to see your BOM list because, well, we want to find you in court. No, I'm joking, but this is another angle from what you said that can apply. You can, like, disclosing this information does open you up to this kind of situation, or someone that I was talking about showing this presentation today told me, oh, but if you publish your bombs instantly, there's, as soon as the vulnerability gets released, there's just going to be an arms race because the fact that you use it is there in the open. Yes, these are all things that need to be taken into account. For example, for this last one, what I said was, well, but where is your vulnerability management program? It has been disclosed. It's out in the open. You also know that you have it. Go fix it. In that case, for legislation, in Portugal is quite a complicated topic.
Well, vulnerabilities are not necessarily exploitable. So you have to tell the difference between something that it can be exploitable or not.
Yes, but as on any of you that has had servers exposed to the internet, as soon as something drops, you're going to start seeing the POCs just knocking on your door nonstop. So there's always going to be an arms race of sort, even if unsuccessful.
But there's an obvious tension building up because like if you having SBOMs published, your company will mean that you will get a harder time going to the market or being in the market. Then there's like commercial tension there to like withhold publishing the SBOM.
Yes, I think that's inevitable, especially if you consider companies that rely on trade secrets. The secret sauce, let's say. SBOMs are quite abrasive to companies that rely on the inner workings not being disclosed, which again, I am, the idea that I have is basically for more openness and transparency, but of course, this is not my utopic vision that one size fits all. There's always going to be some tension. And in general, I do see that the regulatory force is going to come in and probably demand these. However, it might be worded in a way so vague. As I said, for PCI DSS, that just say you have to keep an inventory of the software pieces that you use. And that's it. You can keep that inventory in a WordPad document and a Pentium 2 computer in the basement, and that meets the requirement if you show it to the auditors. If they start coming into, you have to publish this, they have to be deposited at Tour du Tombe and signed off. Okay, then we are entering a more complicated and more onerous processes.
Cough, cough, blockchain. So last question, sorry. SBOMs feel like this beautiful side effect of software composability. I'm a web guy, so I usually say the web as a way to deliver software to the world has won, basically, compared with other ways of delivering software, because of how easy it is to build new apps and deliver them through like a common browser. And you mentioned before, where do we get the SBOMs compiled? And you mentioned the CI/CD is probably like your best bet of doing that. But the problem with on the web, at build time, you don't have the complete SBOM. Actually, web applications, they pull dynamically third-party libraries and services. And so that calls for like a dynamic SBOM, not just a actually the process to build the SBOM should be dynamic, as the result should be dynamic.
Yes, that's more of a statement than a question, but yes, I do agree with that.
No, I mean, is there something being thought out for this type of scenario?
Currently, as far as I am aware, no. But it's likely that it happens. Let's consider the dynamic pulling of libraries. If you have, for example, here's a list of the possible libraries that can be pulled. Again, the BOM concept is flexible. You're going to be able to, there is no standard that says, oh, you have to put these, and these. There's the executive order that was signed, and I believe there are some regulatory elements that say a BOM has to have a minimum of these elements, but they're not language specific. So as long as you meet that mark, as I said before, like an inventory of the software that you have is a WordPad document on a Pentium 2 in a basement. It still works. So for things that are more dynamic, well, I'll leave that as an open question to all of you here that are going to be working on this, and working in cybersecurity. How would you, I said, the first one was how to build a BOM for an LLM model. Now, how do you build a BOM for something that changes dynamically upon usage time? Like you cannot pre-created or predetermined what it is. No answer so far, something to research.
Thank you, Diogo. I'll leave the rest for tomorrow.
And
Any other questions?
We always have the time after.
oh yeah, I'll be around, don't worry.